guys, Brad Phillips for the Grand Lodge of Arkansas, and welcome to the second video in this series dedicated to the awards of Arkansas Masonry. Before we begin, I believe it is prudent for me to note that Arkansas does not currently have a law on its digest, its code, any regulation that deals with Masonic regalia. Okay, so what does that mean? That means there are all kinds of Masonic companies outside, Masonic regalia companies, that you can buy any manner of apron, officer collar, or jewels, or anything that you want to buy. So that means if you have a specific apron you want to wear, whether it's whatever size apron you want to wear, whatever design apron is on the apron, that's fine. You can wear that. There's nothing wrong with that. To any of the lodges, many of our lodges have different types of officer collars, for an example. Some of the lodges will have just like a rope with the working tool of the office hanging from the rope, while other lodges will have a full metal collar with a velvet backing and just a big ornate officer collar, which is fine. It also applies to the Lewis jewel. If you don't specifically qualify for this particular Lewis jewel, that's fine. There are many types of different Lewis jewels, many different designs. They all mean the same thing. The Lewis jewel means the exact same thing no matter what the design is. But I am going to highlight the Arkansas Lewis medal and the requirements for this particular jewel that is given by the Grand Lodge of Arkansas. Okay, so don't stress. You can still wear one. It's just not this particular jewel. And if you want to go purchase one of those, feel free to go purchase one and wear that on your jacket. Wear it on your shirt. Wear it with pride. Because no one in Arkansas Masonry is going to come up to you and say, you can't wear that, because they can't. Because there's no law, there's no rule that says that there's any regulation on that. So just wanted to get that out of the way at the first of the video. I also want to bring our non-Masons up to speed because I'm going to be talking tonight about operative and speculative Masonry. I've already mentioned this in a previous video, but I'll just go ahead and do a brief refresher course. For our non-Mason friends. Freemasonry is divided into two classes, operative and then speculative. If I'm speaking about operative Masonry, I'm speaking about the actual stone masons, the guys that take a rock and they have their hammer and their chisel and they make a little brick out of it and they build a structure. That's an operative Mason. Okay, that's operative Freemasonry. If I'm speaking about speculative Freemasonry, then I'm speaking about modern Freemasons in our fraternity now. I've never built a brick house in my life. I wouldn't know how to actually do that. So I am a speculative Mason. So there's the difference in case I lose some of you when I'm speaking about that. Okay, so on to it. What is a Lewis? We're going to talk about operative Masonry now. In operative Masonry, a Lewis is a simple, but it's an ingenious little tool that was used to raise heavy blocks of stone into place. And I'll put a representation up there now. It consists of three separate metal parts. Two are wedge-shaped side pieces and a straight centerpiece. In order for it to work, the craftsman had to cut a dovetailed recess into the top of each hewn block with exacting dimensions. The two dovetail pieces were put into the recessed cutout, followed by the center piece. All three pieces are then bolted together, and a metal ring or a clevis is attached, and the block can then be easily lifted by a rope, pulley, and tackle. The Lewis allowed the block to be gripped securely and safely. Now, once the block is in place, the Lewis can then be removed out of the block, and it leaves a smooth surface on the top that is prepared for the next layer of bricks when you're building the structure. Okay. Even though it was a very simple tool, It was simple in design. The craftsman had to be exact with its dimensions. If he were off by just a few little marks, the block may not lift evenly. It may not be centered easily into the wall. The block could break, damaging not only the block itself, but the structure and possibly even injure the workman, wasting a massive amount of time and energy hewing a stone by hand with chisel and gavel only to have it break. Therefore, in operative masonry, the Lewis tool was capable of supporting a tremendous amount of weight and is associated with strength, naturally, right? Now, on to speculative masonry. Okay, how does it apply to Freemasons? In Freemasonry, the son of a master mason is known as a Lewis because it is his duty to support the sinking powers and failing strength of his father, to bear the heavy burden in the heat of the day and help his father in time of need, which, by reason of his great age, he ought to be exempted from, so as to render the close of his days happy and comfortable. So, what does that mean? Okay. Well, our fathers have learned the lessons taught in the fraternity and have been teaching those lessons for many years. They've taught it to new members, they've taught it to us, to their sons, and they have been an example of an upright man. Okay, that's what they've done year after year after year after year after year. They have learned their proficiencies and the ritual work needed to make masons, and as their sons, it is our duty to take over teaching these lessons when their age, may affect their memories, when they can no longer attend the lodge meetings or degrees on a regular basis, when they're ready to step down from actually teaching and relax and just enjoy the meetings without the burden of leadership. It is a natural process for the next generation to learn from the previous, right? And if Freemasonry is to survive, that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to carry on the lessons and all of the teachings and examples that the previous generation has given us, so that Freemasonry survives, so that we can pass it on to our sons, and then they can pass it on to our grandsons, and so on and so forth. So that's our job. That's our duty as sons of Master Masons. Now on to the Arkansas Lewis medal itself. Okay, I'll put it up there. The jewel is gold in color. The seal of the Grand Lodge of Arkansas is at the top to denote it is an Arkansas Lewis. From the seal, the nameplate is suspended by two chains, followed by a representation of the operative Lewis working tool, and the tool itself is surrounded by a laurel wreath, which symbolizes victory over our own passions and a completion of a successful transition of our Father's duties onto the Son. Okay. Now, the requirements for this particular jewel that I just put up there is to be the son of an Arkansas Master Mason. Okay, either living or deceased. If he was in good standing at the time of his passing, you qualify. That's really the only qualification, is you have to be the son of an Arkansas Mason. Okay, the jewel is awarded to the second generation, and so on and so forth. Now, in my family, my father is the first generation of Mason. He's the first one in my immediate family to have joined the fraternity. So I am the second generation. So I would be getting the Lewis jewel with one name bar, and my name bar would be there, and it's going to be on the bottom of the Lewis jewel, right next to the actual representation of the tool. Each generation would have his name bar added to the jewel. So if my son was to join, his name will be added to the jewel, and his name will be on the top. So whoever's wearing the jewel, their name is at the top of the jewel. Okay. The name bars should not skip a generation, meaning if your grandfather was an Arkansas Mason, but your father was not, you are not entitled to the distinction of being a Lewis, because the whole definition of Lewis is the son of a Master Mason. this program honors consecutive Arkansas Masonic family heritage, meaning it is a means for our Arkansas Masonic families to display their support and their devotion to Arkansas Masonry. Now, as I stated in the very beginning of this video, there are many types of different Lewis jewels, and every one of them means the exact same thing. The emblem at the bottom is what is important on the meaning as far as the Lewis goes, and I'll put these up there. If you believe you are entitled to wear a Masonic Lewis jewel, then so be it. There are many different companies that sell these jewels. If your father was a member of another state, yes, absolutely, you are a Lewis and you are entitled to wear a Lewis jewel. However, the Arkansas Lewis that I've just went over is reserved for only Arkansas Lewis recipients. Strict qualifications for its use translate to a more distinguished and sought-after award. The appropriate time to present the Lewis Medal is in the second section of the master's degree, at the time when the candidate is receiving, his presentations, his Grand Master's pen and the Bible and all the other stuff that the lodge deems necessary to present him, and that's the time you needed to do it. There is an application available on the database in the form section, and what I would recommend is when we get the application, we're going to certify it, make sure it's all there, that we can document that yes, your father, your grandfather, everybody was Arkansas Master Masons, and then we're going to ship you the jewel. It is your responsibility, as far as the lodge or the recipient, to have the actual names put on the bars. So what I would recommend is you order this prior to the degree, so that if you want the names on there at the time of the presentation, they can be made. I hope you have enjoyed this second installment of the award series on the Masonic Lewis, and I hope I have explained it enough where it's about as clear as mud, probably. But I hope you understand it more than you did before you watched this video. Our next week, I'm going to post our final video in this award series, and it's going to be dedicated to the Arkansas Grand Lodge Medal of Honor. It is the highest achievement that the Grand Lodge of Arkansas can bestow upon one of its members, and that'll be next week. To our non-Mason friends, I hope you enjoyed this video as well. I hope you learned a little bit more about Arkansas Masonry. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me by email. It's gs@argrandlodge.com. You can send me a contact link through our website, arkgrandlodge.com. You can contact me on Facebook. Send me a message through there, through the Grand Lodge Facebook page. You can call me here at the office, 501-374-6408, or just simply stop by 712 Scott Street here in downtown Little Rock. So until next week.